Okay. Can you hear well enough from here? I don't speak very loudly. It's like people tell me all the time.
So good. Yeah.
Okay. Don't hesitate to stop me and ask if I'm not speaking well. I also want to give you a heads up that we're learning drashot, a drasha. We're in the middle of a drasha we started last week. This is a drasha that was taught in the Warsaw Ghetto in 1941. So it's material that's it's a bit heavy.
Right.
He's not super explicit, but he doesn't refer specifically to things that are happening. It's not, but it's important. From experience, I know it's important for me to give people a fair warning. If you feel like it's too much, then you can tell me ahead of time. You tell me. If you don't want to hear it, we can do something different. I mean it. Setting this up. I'll do a little catching up because we're going to jump into the middle. Okay. How's your Hebrew? I mean, your Hebrew reading, I'm sure, is great.
Excellent.
His Hebrew is excellent, and my Hebrew isn't so bad.
Okay. Shalom. You got? Yeah. טוב, אז אנחנו בקטע כאן למטה.
ובזה אפשר להבין.
בדיוק. אז טוב. So I'm going to give a little haktama because we're in the middle of the drasha we started last week. There's a couple pieces of haktama, and I'll try to do it briefly, but to give you enough information, okay? One piece is that we were looking last week at the female role models that the Rebbe had around him. Okay, I don't know if he listened to it. Yeah. So if we dig a little bit in the ancestry of the Piaseczna Rebbe, we see that the generations that preceded, he came from both sides of his family, from all sides of his family, Admorei Hasidim, Kozhnitz, Rebbe Melech Milizhensk, Chozeh Milublin, Nor Hashemesh, big Hasidic Rebbes. And in a lot of the different dynasties, we see that he had ancestors who were women who played in the role similar to a Rebbe. People would come with kvitlach, with a letter. Speaking of handwriting, they'd come to ask for brachot.
I want to write down, if I may.
Oh, please. You have paper? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna turn off the air conditioning. I think it's cold enough.
Are you cold enough?
I'm fine.
I'm cold. It'll also be easier for me to speak.
Okay.
If you get uncomfortable, let me know.
Did you turn it on or off?
I turned it off just now.
Good.
Okay.
Do you have a piece of paper for me by any chance?
There might be some scraps you can write on the back. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem. I'm obsessed about it. If you say something important, to write it down.
So we saw also in particular. So for example, the Rebbe is I have like three languages kind of mixing together. I'm trying to pull out the English word, an Einikol, a descendant of the Maggid Kuznets. So the Maggid Kuznets was a student of the
Maggid from where?
Maggid of Kuznets. Kuznets, in Poland. Maggid of Kuznets had a daughter named Perele. And the Hasidim say that Perele used to daven with a talis. She wore tzitzit and a gartel and would take brachot, letters from people give brachot. Also on other sides. And we were speaking specifically about his wife, the Rebbe's wife. This is he lived towards the end of the 1800s until 1943. His wife, who he writes about in the Shar of his book, he gives a dedication page to her, Rachel Chaya Miriam. She died of a disease in 1937. Mm-hmm. And so we know a few things about her. We know, for example, the Rebbe writes a letter about the learning and tefillah and avodat Hashem that she did on a regular basis, and how her tzadikut and knowledge, like astounded him on a regular basis. We have in some of his own writings notes that he made. He wrote footnotes that he used to show his writings to his wife. She would review them for him and make suggestions.
Wow.
And there's also, I read it in a historian who says that she herself wrote commentaries on some Hasidic work, which I don't know where that exists, if it exists nowadays. But so with that background, we were looking at a drasha that he gave on her yahrzeit. Parshat Chukat, Yud Tammuz,
on
his wife's yahrzeit. Parshat Chukat, Yud Tammuz, Shnat Tafshin Aleph, 1941.
And that's the parsha of the week.
That's at that time was Parshat Chukat, and he wrote in the drasha here that was on the exact date of her yahrzeit that year, and one of her names was Miriam. And we see that in both years in Parshat Chukat, in the Ish Kodesh, the drashot in this book, he speaks about Miriam and her tzadikut, and it's very clear, I think, if we understand context, that he's also speaking about his hashra'ah, the inspiration and model that he saw in his wife and her avodat. Okay, so I'll just kind of briefly say over what we said in the opening paragraphs. The Rebbe was speaking about this idea of serving God without an agenda of receiving reward. Right? The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, "Don't be like an eved don't be like a servant who serves the master to get a reward. Be like someone who serves the master to not get a reward." So first the Rebbe says, okay, you have to be a real tzaddik to have no, you don't want anything good for yourself. You don't want any protection in your life. Like, it's kind of inhuman to see it on an absolute level. How can we relate to that? So he says he brings from another source. He brings from another source that it's not to say that you have absolutely no self interest. It's impossible to be a human being and not have some kind of self-interest for your own good. That's part of how we're created, right? Shalom, welcome. You were here once before, right?
Yeah.
Remind me your name?
Mary.
Mary. Hi, I'm welcome. I do have one more copy. You said I have another one. Paragraph towards the bottom of Azeh, but I'm just kind of giving some background, okay? So what the Rebbe ends up saying, based on another source from Rashi, is that it's not to say that the only way to serve God in an ideal state is to have no self, there's nothing good for me that I'm hoping for, but rather, I'm not serving God on the condition that I'm going to get something out. It's not a conditional thing. Okay, it's not that I can't have hopes or some kind of, the way he speaks about it in a very natural sense is we feel ourselves. That is how we're made. We experience our own desires and self-preservation, a need for survival, a need for goodness and protection. It's very rare to find somebody who's going to not experience life that way. But all of us on some level are willing to serve God in a deeper sense, our drive to serve God is not because we're going to get something out of it. That's not the condition on which we serve God. Okay, so he says that already means that we're not serving God for the purpose of receiving it. We're serving God because we have a love, a connection, a deeper attachment that even if you were to tell me I'm not going to get anything out of this, I'm going to do it for another reason. I'm going to do it out of that longing and love. So once the Rebbe brings that lens, he says, basically all of us are serving God to not receive reward. Like if we look deeply and honestly enough of why it is that we have some kind of desire to connect to kedusha, to holy things, to godliness, it's not for the sake of getting something out of it. That might be get in the mix at some point, but that's not why we're doing it. Okay, so that's kind of a basic summary to bring us up to where we are. ובזה אפשר להבין הסמיכות. אל תהיו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב על מנת לקבל פרס, אלא הביאו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב שלו על מנת לקבל פרס, ואמור השמיים עליכם, מה עניין מור השמיים הזה? So the Rebbe now brings back that Mishnah from Pirkei Avot. Okay, the whole Mishnah there in Pirkei Avot is, don't be like servants who serve the master in order to receive a reward. Rather, be like servants who serve the master not for the purpose of receiving a reward, And v'yeh mora shamayim aleichem. So he asks, okay, we talked about what it means to serve God for a reward, not for a reward. What's this thing of mora shamayim, of awe, fear of heaven? Why is that where the Mishnah ends up? So I'm just going to get a kind of forecast where we're going here. The Rebbe is going to give us a revolutionary understanding of what it means, fear of heaven. Okay. An important thing that I forgot in my recap is that immediately in the paragraph just before, the Rebbe basically said, how do we get ourselves more inclined to the side of serving God out of that love and not out of that interest? Like if the interest is going to be in the mix, we're on a spectrum, we're on a scale. Sometimes it's because I want stuff, but there's a part of me that wants it for a deeper motivation. How do I get more in touch with that deeper motivation? And he says it's by doing, speaking, learning Torah, bapeh, with your mouth, with your body, doing things. Because he says basically your body becomes Torah when you do that. Your actions become, and your motivation becomes infused. It's like taking vitamins into your bloodstream. When you are activating your body and yourself, your most basic sense of self, you're activating that in a holy way. So that is having an influence on your very sense of self in that moment. That will then, I think of it as like spiritual exercise. You exercise and you're developing muscles. When we use those parts of ourselves for holy things, so something is developing inside of us that then grows and becomes strong. Because there's another important piece that's going to come. Ita b'Gemara. So Rabbi asked, what's Mora Shamayim? What does fear of heaven have to do with this? So the Gemara says, Mai dichtiv sham'ata mishamayim hishmata din eretz yere'a v'shaketa. This is a Gemara in Masechet Shabbat. That's talking about Matan Torah, about the giving of the Torah at Sinai. And the Gemara quotes a Tehillim that says, you made the law, the deen, heard from heaven. Eretz Yere'ah v'shaketa. The earth was fearful and quiet. So the Gemara then asks, well, if it was fearful, why is it then quiet? If it's quiet, what was it fearful? They're trying to, what is this fearful and quiet thing going on? Rather, the Gemara says, at first the earth was terrified when Hashem was going to give Torah, and then afterwards the earth became quiet. Why was the earth scared? Resh Lakish. Mai dichtiv. Yeah, Resh Lakish.
Resh Lakish.
Yeah.
He's a descendant of Resh Lakish.
You're a descendant of Resh Lakish.
Yeah.
You're not sure?
I'm sure.
You're sure of it. Wonderful. Amazing.
It's the family's tradition.
Amazing. So Baruch haba. Baruch haba. Baruch haba. You should know the story is also about connecting to previous generations. So. Thanks for being here. So Resh Lakish asks, Resh Lakish says, why is the Torah say Yom HaShishi? Hey Yitzer Alamali. What's with this, the sixth day? Right? Every other day, do you not have the place?
Yeah,
no. No, he's just skipping here. There's those are older printings. It doesn't have. Just stick with me in a few sentences. In a few sentences, you'll be back to your mind. Okay. Resh Lakish said, trying to understand what is the fear of earth at Mount Torah. Why is the earth afraid before it's silent? So, if you look at the story of Maaser Bereshit, story of creation. So every day it's Yom Echad is something. Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Shishi, Revi'i, Chamishi, then Yom HaShishi. What do you mean the sixth day? Right, Yom HaShishi, see every Friday night. Why is it Ha? So hey, in Hebrew, it's usually it's specifying something. It's Hey HaYedi'ah. It's a specific Yom Shishi. Which Yom Shishi is that? Resh Lakish is going to say it's going to be the sixth day, which is the 6th of Sivan when the Torah was given at Sinai thousands of years later. Is already being hinted at in Yom HaShishi of creation. And he goes on to say, you don't have the line in here anyway, I'm going to just say what he goes on to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a deal, a condition, a t'nai with the world, the 6th day of creation. Yom HaShishi is saying. If Am Yisrael is going to receive the Torah at Har Sinai, this world is going to last. But if they don't, ani machzir etchem l'tohu v'vohu. And the world, I'm going to return the world to chaos, and it's going to unravel. So when Hashem, on the sixth day of creation already, Hashem is sort of foreshadowing. There's going to be a Yom HaShishi. There's going to be a 6th of Sivan one day. I'm creating this world for a purpose, and if that purpose is met, so the world's going to continue. But if Am Yisrael is not able to receive my Torah at Har Sinai, I'm going to undo the whole thing. That's what Reish Lakish explains. Okay.
I have a question, because what does that mean when, and this thought that like the world was created for the reception of the Torah? I think there's something much like deeper than that, because there's some, that the act of just receiving seems, I don't want to call it, it's not superficial, but it seems like it's describing something. And I don't know if I'm articulating myself very well right now, but it's like, I'm trying to understand, because it doesn't make sense to me as it is. It doesn't make sense that the whole world was dependent on our reception of the Torah. There has to be something else. I don't know. In my
Which could be what? What do you mean?
What does it mean? Like, what does that actually mean? The Jews receiving the Torah is what? That is the kind of inaction of what?
Right. So I think that's really the question: is what does it really mean?
Yeah.
This statement that creation is contingent somehow on Am Yisrael receiving God's Torah. What does that actually mean? Does it just mean like you're going to say yes? They said yes. Great. Like it's got to be something.
Right. There was an interaction there. There was an exchange. There was like, listen, you become my people. We'll take this, manuscript, and like, cool. It was great.
So,
but
I don't think it's the place for us to explore that in depth. I'll just say like on a maybe just the beginning line of thought is that the Torah is basically God's communication with humanity. It's God delivering the vision of what this world is meant to become to humankind. And so we could say that the world on its own isn't meant to just be a place. It's not like this ball of clay floating in the outer space. In outer space, there's actually a purpose here for there to be a godly vision that's manifested on this earth. The Torah is the conveyor of that. So if they're going to receive my Torah, then this world is going to be able to start to fulfill the purpose for which I made it. But if it's not going to work here, so it's not going to work. The Chachamim say that God was building worlds and creating them, building worlds and creating them, building worlds and creating them for this world came to be. This is how the Chachamim at least view the context of creation. I'm trying more to just kind of convey what I think they're saying. I'm not, it's the beginning of a...
Right, I'm saying it opens up so many tangents.
Sure. But, you could say too that the world God isn't interested in there just being some kind of world. God is interested in a relationship. And the Torah is the way of relating. Beginning of the thought.
Yeah, it's...
V'tzrichim lahavin. You have that in your text? Tzrichim lahavin, lama ha'aretz levada? Is that where your text picks up? Great. Tzrichim lahavin, lama ha'aretz levada yiv'av, v'lo b'am hashamayim. Okay. So Reish Lakish explained to us, what do you mean the earth was terrified? The earth was terrified because God told the earth of creation, if this is going to work, it's all going to be great. But if this moment is not going to be fulfilled, it's all going to come undone. So that was the Gemara. Now the Piaseczna, the Rebbe is asking, well, then the pasuk from Tehillim says that the earth is afraid, but not the heavens. The heavens are also part of creation. Should be all of creation should be terrified. You're telling me just the earth is terrified? Why isn't heaven terrified also? So this is his question. Let's go with him. Right? The heavens are also created by God. They're facing the same threat. They they're also, according to the Gemara, created on this condition. That either the Torah is going to enter this world, or this whole creation is going to come undone. Why is it only the earth that was afraid? אבל כיוון שיראה כזו יראת עצמה היא שלא לאבד, לכן רק הארץ יראה אותה. This is related a little bit to what we saw in the previous week, what I tried to recap, and I hope it's clear. He says, because, what is this fear that's being described?
What is Yirat Atzma?
Yirat Atzma. The fear of earth that the Gemara is describing is that I myself will be destroyed. Yirat Atzma. It's a fear over its own survival. The earth is afraid for itself, according to this Midrash Chacham. Yeah? Because God is going to undo me and return me to before creation. So for that reason, it's only the earth that has this fear for itself. Why? Masha'en ken hashamayim, shidvar Hashem avar al yedehem. Heaven, shamayim, is the channel through which God's voice comes to the earth. Ki mishamayim hishmata. That's what the pasuk in Tehillim says. Mishamayim hishmata din, eretz yirei avashaketa. Your din, your voice, your judgment, it came through the heavens, and the earth was afraid. So the Rebbe is explaining, I'll say it in his words, I'm going to try to explain a little more for us to understand. The Rebbe is saying, because God's word, so to speak, this divine communication, this Torah it passed through heaven. It transformed heaven into no longer being afraid for itself, but being more tapped into that something called Yirat Hashem Tahara, which what I was trying to recap from the previous week is on this sort of scale between, am I doing it for my own, am I doing Torah for my own good, my own protection, my own reward, or am I doing it for some deeper godly purpose? So when God's word passes through you, it transforms you. Mm-hmm. It makes you not only concerned about your own survival anymore. Your own concerns become a God. You become concerned with God's concerns. This is what the Rebbe was saying before. That when we practice learning Torah B'Peh, davening with our bodies, with our mouth, doing ma'asim that are connected to Kedusha, so there's something that's transformed in us. That is something I said last week. Is if you ever sat, we're doing it right now, but when you sit and you really learn a text and you're grappling with Torah, that's what you care about in that moment. You're not thinking about the thing that I wanted to get on sale, earlier today that was so important. You're not thinking about other tzaros even that you're dealing with. When you're in the Torah and you're speaking and thinking and dealing with it, that is what you're concerned with. Your concerns become replaced with a godly concern. So there's some kind of transformation that happens, like you're saying, when God's voice passes through heaven, that heaven all of a sudden becomes not concerned for itself anymore, but becomes part of that. Yeah, me and God are in this together. But earth was kind of just still listening. So earth still had that sense of, I need to protect myself. The self preceded the awareness of God. Okay, that's more or less what he's saying. He's going to now link it to what he was talking about. This is what it means when the Mishnah said, "Be like a servant who's serving God for not for the sake of receiving reward."
So you have all those shortenings.
Yeah, it's an older printing that I photocopied, so it has a lot of considering. So the truth is, what he said earlier, if you get to the core of why any of us are doing holy things, why any of us are involved in Avodat Hashem, in whatever way that we're involved, it's manat l'kabel pras. That's not the condition. None of us are lighting Shabbat candles so I can do something good. Even if that's what I'm aware of, even if I'm lighting Shabbat candles, I'm thinking to myself, I really hope God gives me something good. If you took that away from me in that moment, I would still light the Shabbat. That's what the Rebbe said earlier. So this is This is what it means. The thing is, it's not that we're doing it for the sake of getting something, but it's that the thing we feel first is ourselves. That's how we work as human beings. I feel myself before I feel other things. My experience in the most direct and immediate way is, looking after my own good. It's a natural part of my biological, psychological makeup.
And according to behavioral psychology, this is your plus. I talk about reward. You do something because you get reward.
Yeah.
And if you feel more wholesome and one with yourself, the emotions themselves are the reward, actually. So actually you do it for reward.
But
behavioral psychology, not
but
me.
they're already, even according to that viewpoint, it's no longer about survival. It's still something that's beyond the
absolutely
the survivalist
fetus
mechanism. There's some kind of greater sense of self that you're attached to in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Rebbe is comparing this story of Matan Torah to this concept of how we serve, how we approach our service of God. But let me just read through and that's why the Mishnah of serving God in this way, it ends with this idea of Morah Shamayim. Lo Morah Shel Haaretz, Rak Shamayim. That fear, the awe that we experience, Chachamim are saying, if you tap into the part of you, the way of serving God that's Shelo Amanat Mekabel Chas, if there's some kind of greater experience or greater connection or greater concern, you're no longer going to only be fearful like the earth was fearful for your own survival, fearful for your own protection, for your own good. But it will be like the Shemayim that you described at Sinai. And the Shemayim was transformed because God's word passed through Shemayim. And he's saying this is from the Mishnah, this is also what the Mishnah is telling us. Involve yourself in learning, involve yourself in doing, in living Torah in an active way. By means of the Torah passing through you, through your blood, through your concerns, through your mind, through your words, it will refine you too. You will have that transformative effect over time. You will become like Shemayim was at Har Sinai. Shemayim at Har Sinai was in a place of, okay, God is acting through me here. I have nothing to fear. The earth at that time was in a place of, I have no idea if I'm going to make it another day or not. Right? So, this is what the Rebbe was telling his Chassidim. And you'll see it more in the next paragraph. The Rebbe was telling his Chassidim, we're all terrified. He was trying to give them a model of what can you do with your fear? What can you do with your fear? Let's read on it, okay? When Am Yisrael is suffering, okay, we have an idea that the suffering itself is a kapara, right? There's some kind of atonement that's going on. You could say, okay, well, maybe God is kind of paying off dues here. Thing is, when you're in pain and when you're suffering, there's no escaping your own pain. This is hurting me. This is something I'm missing. This is something I need. Nobody can get hit without feeling it. Since a person is inevitably in this situation going to be concerned with their life that's hanging day to day, and about their pain and about their suffering, it's very hard, next to near impossible, to connect to any kind of idea that there's something to live for besides food and survival. Makes sense, right? And in the context he's speaking about, like, you can't even imagine how much this is the reality. How is it possible? Part of the beauty of Rabbi Shlomo is that when he's talking to his Hasidim here, you can hear him also asking their questions. The question that is being asked here is, you're going to talk to me about God right now? You're going to talk to me about heaven right now? And the Rebbe's saying, I'm going to talk to you about heaven right now. I'm going to ask the same question you're asking, because I'm asking the questions too. Okay? I'm going to skip a little bit because the next part it's a bit more like limudi, and it's going to kind of be harder for us to get with the rest of this piece. You see the paragraph of Yinei Kedei Le'over? You have that piece? Yinei? Yinei.
Yinei.
Yeah. So now, before we read on, I want to tell you what we read from the Rebbe speaking about his wife last week. We read a letter that the Rebbe wrote after his wife's passing. And the thing, besides for her limud Torah and her piety and tefillah that he spoke about, he talked about how devoted she was to taking care of other people. That she knew that the words he used, she couldn't satisfy her desire to give just from what they had. So she took out loans on interest in order to give tzedakah beyond their means. And he said, she left me with huge debt because of that. And he talked about her being on her sickbed and saying, being on Shabbos on her sickbed and turning to him and saying, I'm concerned that I'm going to ruin your Shabbos. And in her last days saying it's Shabbos, you should eat something. That the concern for truly being there for other people, I think he called her like a mother figure to all of the Hasidim. That the concern of being there for other people was one of the strongest things that he spoke about. So let's look at what he's saying on her website and what he's bringing into their experience. In order to arouse compassion above and to sweeten the judgment, this is to bring more God's goodness into the world. What we need to do is arouse within ourselves rachmanut, empathy, compassion, al Yisrael zulatov, for another person. Right? He just said to them, I know that all of us can't think about anything other. The most important thing for all of us right now is how am I going to get through the next few hours? How am I going to get through the next night, the next day? And don't talk to me. I can't even think about doing things for God's sake right now. Can't think about that. It's just, you want to know what you can do with your fear? You can think about the person next to us. It's not only about giving to somebody, sharing what you have. The rachmanut, the compassion itself. So we can arouse within ourselves for the fellow Jew who's suffering right now. That has an effect. It says we have to not get used to, really, we have to not get numb to the suffering. The multitudes of suffering, the degrees of suffering, they can't make us apathetic. We can't allow that to
Feel
numb.
sorry for yourself.
It's more than that. We can't allow that to numb our ability to feel compassion for the person. We can't allow it to just become the normal. We can't just be, okay, yeah, another day, another unimaginable pain or whatever. We can't allow ourselves to just get used to feel that. We have to continue to feel the Rahmanut, the empathy for other people.
What is namog?
Namog, our heart has to melt from this kind of. We have to not allow ourselves to, always a lev ha'evan, and a stone, a lev kasher. We have to not allow ourselves to close up. And he's speaking, what he's speaking to here is the most, you know this more than I do, he's the most primal human instinctive response to suffering. So when I'm suffering, I'm going to close and protect. Because that is how I can get through it. That is a survival mechanism par excellence. And the Rebbe is urging his Hasidim what it means for us to be godly in this moment, what it means for us to allow God into our lives here. It's not just to pray and turn yourself, it's to think about another person. It's to let your heart remain feeling, not only of yourself, but of other people. We spoke earlier that he was talking about this thing of, lessening myself as center stage and allowing more of God's concern to be at center stage. I think that was like his model of Avodat Hashem Shalom, I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm allowing myself to do more of what I'm doing to be doing for God. The place now where he's directing that avodah is between one person. You hear this? It's that same way he spoke about replacing my concerns with God's concerns. I'm replacing my concerns with somebody else's concerns in this shared experience. So there's two things that come from this when we're able to feel true empathy and compassion for another person. One is One is that our tefillot for other people is going to be with more heart and soul. Not just going to be like, okay, yeah, and I should remember that somebody else needs something. But we're going to truly feel it. The Gemara has an amazing Gemara that says, if you and another person need something, and you pray for their need before yours, your tefillah is going to do it. Now, I'm not getting into spiritual mechanics. I don't know how that stuff works. But the Gemara is saying that there's such thing as we have a shared common need, and I'm recognizing that the need is bigger than this. That a truer tefillah is one that is also aware of need. Even if it's mine also. The first thing he says is that when we allow ourselves to feel care for another person in this state, so tefillah becomes a lot more real. And the second thing, it is going to get a little denser. I'll try my best. He says, our Sfarim teach us that there's times when there's already been a godly decree that Am Yisrael is going to be saved. There's going to be a Yeshua that comes. There's going to be a salvation. But it's somehow stuck up in heaven. There's a decree. God is waiting to redeem the world, but there's things in the world that are holding it up from finding a place here. To be enclosed in physical reality, in worldly reality. It sounds like the Rebbe is saying, it could be that God is planning to save us already, but there's, how do we help it trickle down? So therefore, when we don't just know cognitively, intellectually that we should be there for another person and support them, but with their entire being, they feel that compassion for another person. It's through that compassion, a person transforming themselves to become a caring entity for another person, that they become a conduit where that that godly Yeshua cannot rest. You hear this? It's as if like God is up there saying, "I want to have compassion on this world. I want my salvation to come to these people." And our Rahmanut, our compassion can be the conduit for that divine compassion to reach them. כיוון שגם הוא גם בעצמותו, היינו במידותיו וליבו, שהוא גם כן בגופו מרחם. Why is that? And he says one more thing, is because I am here in a body, caring about another person in a body. And there's a greater power to that in bringing about redemption than waiting for God's compassion to somehow reach them. Pretty radical thing if we just stop for a moment. For a few reasons. Number one, what the Rebbe is describing here is that there's a time when the vertical connection to God is very hard to access. It's almost completely absent. Both in terms of how am I supposed to, think beyond the immediate experience in the here and now of self-preservation. How come you're going to tell me to do something with Shem Shemayim? Shemayim doesn't seem to be here right now. And number two, saying even through the reality of things is that the Yeshua in the godly realms is not going to reach the world without us being involved. It's a crazy thing to consider, but that is the template that a lot of our Torah is based on. And it's not so simple. It's not kipshuta. There's a whole machloket. The Gemara has a whole unresolved dispute. Is God going to save the world because God wants to save the world, or is God going to save the world because people are going to be tshuva? And it's an unresolved machloket. But that is the machloket that we live in. That is the paradox that we experience of being people in this world, that have some kind of idea that there's a God. If there's a God to this world, so the world should have God's goodness here.
So the suffering that Hashem sent to Rabbi Shapira and other people during the Holocaust, or right before the Holocaust, was to help them in a way to purify themselves. Because the more suffering is in your life, the more you're likely to apply these principles that he explains.
I would say from the other side. I think it's impossible for us to say why this happened.
Well, I'm not explaining why it happens.
So I think a more maybe more accurate way to say it based on what he's saying is, given that this is what we're experiencing, what might God be asking of us still? Right? You hear the difference? Like I'm very what's the word? I don't want. I even if it's not what you mean, I don't want to I'm resistant to phrase things of God did this so that. Right.
There are plenty of Hasidic writings, including things that the Lubavitcher Rebbe has written, that when people are faced with suffering in their personal life, that this is an invitation to purify yourself.
So this is in the paragraph that I skipped, actually. The Rebbe said, it's true that we believe somehow that there's kapara and some kind of purification that happens through suffering. But he says that that's a broken kind of purification. He says that is a purification that's pagum, it's damaged purification. And he explains because it's still wrapped up in that experience of I'm here isolated unto myself. And so yes, it's my suffering that's purifying me, but it's still one of isolation. It's kind of being purified in a way of exile, in a way of isolation. And he calls it pagum, and he even uses the word that there's chet involved in it. He says that it's something it's in the previous paragraphs that because the way he explains it is through a lot of kind of other Gemaras and Nazir and stuff like that. I didn't want to get into it. But he says that the kind of kapara, the kind of tahara that comes from me suffering, okay, it's there, but it's damaged. It's not a redemptive pain. I think that's, you hear the distinction there?
Yeah.
And I would say throughout his writings, he's not glorifying this. He's not glorifying suffering. He's looking and experiencing what he and his Hasidim and the world around him has gone through, and he's trying to see where is there a possibility to continue to exist here, to continue to have some kind of conception of there being a God to this world, and to find holiness and dignity nonetheless. And the model he's giving here is that, you know what? It's not coming from above right now. It's not coming from above. The avodah, meaning the rahmanut, right? That salvation, not coming from above. So the natural way to think is, okay, so like God's out of the picture. Right? The natural thing is, okay, look what's going on. God's out of the picture. God's just like either ignoring us or gone or what have you. And there he says, no. He needs to come on the horizontal plane. The way that God's Yeshua is going to come is from us caring about each other. The possibility of Rachamim still exists by us opening ourselves to care about him. He's telling us we cannot sit and wait for God's Rachamim to come from heaven. And if we go back, we link it to what the Rebbe was saying earlier. Remember that Gemara, that the earth was afraid because the earth was just in itself at Har Sinai. But heaven wasn't afraid because heaven was the conduit of God's word. Remember that? Yeah? Mm-hmm. So the Rebbe is saying, when we have rachamim for one another, we're in place of heaven. You hear that? We're holding in that place that heaven was. We become the heaven. We become the Shemaim. Shemaim's not up there right now. But Shemaim can be between us in small ways. In the smallest ways possible, there can be Shemaim between. This is what, I mentioned to you the story of the hunchback that Reb Shlomo tells, that other people have told that the Rebbe was a teacher of young children. Before the war, he devoted himself to teaching young children, and what this student, his student said, is that the Rebbe would say over and over and over again, remember children, the greatest thing in the world is to do something else. Sounds like the simplest thing in the world. Sounds like the simplest thing in the world. But we see the depth of what that means. The depth of what that means is that there is no end to where Allah can reach. And that becoming Rahmanim towards one another, despite every reason in the world to stop doing that, to stop caring about each other. Yeah? Despite all of the threats and needs that we have, if we can still empathize and care for another person, we can still exist, God can still exist. This world still has something to it. The next paragraphs we're going to read is we're going to see now where the Rebbe is circling back to be more, not fully explicitly, but more explicitly relating to his life. Okay? Because this was the perpetuates that he's speaking of. Okay? וזה העניין שאיתה בגמרא מגילה. שלכן בעת שהיה יאשיהו המלך בצרה שלח לחולדה הנביאה. אף שגם ירמיהו הנביא היה בדור הזה. So the Gemara Megillah talks about Yoshiyahu HaMelech. Yoshiyahu was from the kingdom of David. Okay? He became king when he was 8 years old, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And years later, something comes up. I'm trying to remember. They found the Sefer Torah. They want to understand, like the Farshim are kind of split on it, but they found the Sefer Torah that was hidden for a long time. Either it was a Sefer Torah that was given at Har Sinai that they kind of lost, it was buried and they disconnected from, or there was all these mitzvot in there that they didn't know about. Whatever it was, finding this Torah created a tumult for them because they realized all of something farther away. They want to know what to do. So Yoshiyahu HaMelech sent messengers to Huldah HaNeviah. The prophetess, Hulda. This is in the Gemara, by the way, Megillah. They're listing all of the female prophetesses who lived in the time of the Tanakh. One of them was named Hulda. And they went to her to understand, to ask her, what should we do? What does God want of us? And he said, the Gemara there says, Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah the prophet, lived in the same generation at the same time. Yet Yoshiyahu HaMelech decided we need to talk to Hulda. And I said, why didn't they ask Yirmiyahu? So the answer to the Gemara is, Mipnei shehanashim rachmaniyotim. This is the Gemara's answer. The Gemara's answer was, Yoshiyahu was in crisis. And he wanted to turn to a female prophet because he felt that she would have more rachamim. She'd have more rachamim. He said, if you're going to a man, he's gonna just give it to me. But she'll have more compassion for me. For us, for the situation, a more compassionate way of understanding what is going on. Okay, that's the Gemara. But look what the Rebbe says. Hainu mibnei shegam bigufan rachmaniyot yoter min hanashim. Lechen tamshich yoter mehera to Yeshua gam le'olam hazeh. He said, the Rebbe says that what this means in the Gemara is that a woman, or that Yeshua was women in their very bodies are rachmaniyot. Why would he say this? What's the source of rachamim? The womb. And he's saying when we're in crisis, I want to turn to somebody who has a womb. I want a womb-like relationship to this situation. That the womb is something that both protects and encompasses and cultivates life. And when we dive into Hashem for rachamim, we're asking Hashem to incorporate us into a womb-like relationship, to envelop us and let us grow in the way that we need to get past whatever the situation is. So when Yoshiyahu was in crisis, he said, I want to go to a woman, maybe she'll have more rachamim than. So he thought, she would bring the redemption more quickly. He won't know how to envelop us in this situation. Remember, this is the Rebbe now. He's speaking in honor of his wife now. כל כך גדול כוחם וזכותם של אנשים צרכניות, עד שבמדרש רות איתה על הפסוק, ותאמרנה הנשים הנעמי, ברוך השם אשר לא השבית לך גואל היום ויקרא שמו בישראל. There's a midrash on Megillat Ruth. It says that there was a bracha. I believe this is towards the end of the Megillah when Ruth gets married, or she's about to get married to Boaz and be reincorporated into the family. Is going to be built again. Remember, this is the family of David HaMelech, and that the women bless Naomi, the mother-in-law, and they say, "Bless God who didn't cease bringing a redeemer to your family." Okay, redeemer in its local context there means the person from the family who is going to marry Ruth and reinstate the name of the family. But the redeemer, because I was reading of this, is connected to the whole house of Malchut David. The Midrash says, Amar Rav Hunya, Mibirchotem shel nashim lo nitka'ka be'etzato shel David b'imei Ataviyahu. That the power of the women's bracha to Naomi in that moment is what protected the house of Beit David to last throughout all the generations. The times of Ataviyahu, there was a woman named Ataliyahu or Ataliah, who she was the mother of another person who either took the throne or was going to be king, and she heard that David's descendants were now kind of stepping up into royalty again, and she went and she killed all of them to preserve the kingdom for her son. But there was one who was saved. There was one baby at the time from Malchut David who was saved. Ash, if I'm not mistaken, was saved, and then in that way Malchut David lasted. Midrash says it was the power of Malchut David not being vanquished was the bracha of the Nashim to Ruth. And she married God. That's what the Midrash says. What's the Rebbe saying? The Rebbe is saying what's going to keep us alive what the promise we have that we're going to continue, that there will be Goel, that there will be Yeshua, that this isn't going to end, is the koach of the women of Am Yisrael. And this koach of Rahman. Koach of Rahman. Could be saying the koach of his wife who died 4 or 5 years previously. It could be saying the koach of all of the ancestors who lived until that time. And I think if we look at this Torah also, we see the koach of the Rahmanut that we can give to one another is what's going to ensure that something of this is going to last. Kama Gedolah Malchut Beit David. The Rebbe is speaking. You think of how great and powerful the Malchut Beit David is. But the only way, Chazal is saying, the only way Malchut Beit David lasted was from Birkot Nashim Tzadkaniyot, the brachot of these women, of the righteous women. You think Malchut Beit David, that's enough? Like, no. Chazal says, no, you needed these women to give it a bracha, for it to continue to. I'm going to skip the next little paragraph also today. In its concept, let's put V'tamat Sham Miriam. You see V'tamat Sham Miriam? Yeah? So now finally we're in Parshat Chukat. Okay? Now finally we're in Parshat Chukat. This is when Miriam dies. In Parshat Chukat, when Miriam dies, Moshe Tzarach, the big Parshat. And it starts off, this is important to know, it starts off with the mitzvot of Para Aduma. Right? Para Aduma, the red heifer, is the ritual by which somebody who became Tameh Met, who was Tameh, ritually impure by coming into contact with death, had to go through this ritual with a red heifer, that they would have to be completely red, and they would burn it to ash and mix it with water and sprinkle it with water. This is, the parsha begins with the story of Para Aduma, goes into the death of Miriam, and then continues on this rise. Okay, that's parsha Chukat. But Tamat Sham Miriam, this is where Miriam died. Miriam again is the name of the step. The Perush Rashi, Haya ze kilu nichtav al pi Hashem ki malchut peh kmo shekatuv b'ptach Eliyahu. V'chein Perush Rashi. Okay, there's two explanations that he's quoting from Rashi on this pasuk. Tamat Sham Miriam. The first one that Rashi says, Rashi compares Miriam's death to Aaron's death. When Aaron dies in the desert, it says al pi Hashem. It says that Aaron dies al pi Hashem. And Rashi explains, that it means that Aaron died by a kiss, a divine kiss. Pi Hashem literally, by God's mouth, with a kiss from God. And Rashi says, by Miriam it just says that she died. Rashi says that really she also died by a kiss. But it is hidden. There's another, maybe next week, the Rashi we're going to look at it, dealing more with that. Yeah. I'll put it aside for a moment. But what the Rebbe is saying here, he's saying that Kabbalistically, the quality of Malchut, we talk about Malchut Beit David, quality of Malchut, which is earthly manifested existence, as it is here in this world. Malchut, the godly quality that's called Malchut, is about what things are like in this world, in the most concrete way. Okay? You think Malchut, it's a political system. Like the ultimate vision of Geula is that there's going to be a king and a Sanhedrin and a house and a building, and we're talking about very concrete things that are somehow part of that godly world. So this is Malchut. And Malchut is also related, he quotes it from the Tikkun Zohar to Torah Sheba'al Peh, to the oral Torah. Because the oral Torah is the way that human beings figure out how to articulate God's vision. Like the oral Torah, which is the Gemara and the Midrash and the Mishnah, and really all of the teaching that people do, is our human way of bringing to fulfillment God's Torah. God's Torah is written in a book. That's the Torah that God says to us. But what we do with that and how we're going to live that and create a world of humanity, of human life that looks godly, that is godly, is That's the Torah Shabbat. Okay, and all of this is, Kabbalistically speaking, is called the feminine. That's how the Kabbalah sees our world vis-a-vis God. That we are God's God. We're not going to kind of unpack that more, but just to tell you the symbolism that he's using here, he's saying Miriam dies there. She was the Tzadikat Hador, the female leader of that nation, of that generation. So it was as if it was written al pi Hashem also, that the mouth, right, the God's mouth was connected to Miriam's death as well. It was an oral teaching that Miriam carried, and she returned to that place. She returned through that godly kiss. So that's the symbol of these. But Rashi also says, why is it? I want to say one more thing about that. The whole Torah we've been seeing till now, okay, is about what do we do to bring God into our world. Right? What do we do? What can we do? What is possible when the world seems absent? That is called Torah Shabbat. That's people talking to each other. That's people turning to each other. This is what he's talking about. The mouth of Am Yisrael. And that ability to connect on that deep level was lost with Miriam's death. Okay? So let's keep reading. Why is Miriam's death come right after the story of the paraduma, the red heifer, right? That whole ritual of how you purify somebody after death, who came into contact with death. So Rashi says something amazing. Ma korbanot mechaprim af mitat tzadikim mechaperet. He's putting Midrash Kazal to teach us that just like the red heifer, just like korbanot, sacrifices that were brought in Mishkan, they brought kapara for the people. They atoned for the people. Af mitat tzadikim mechaperet. When a righteous person dies, it also brings atonement. This is the concept in Kabbalah. Okay? But then he asks, so it is fine. You're going to tell me that sacrifices bring atonement. When righteous people die, it atones for the world. They're like a sacrifice for the rest of the nation. But so talk to me about other sacrifices. She could have died after the Korban Hasham, the Korban Chatat. They also bring kapara for the people. Why para aduma? Why the red heifer? So he says, Tama Parahi, what was the red heifer about? Chazal asks this amazing question. It's a bizarre thing. A cow? A cow? That's like this special cow that's going to have this kind of effect of tahara. Like what is this cow? What's to do with anything? Okay? But Chazal relates the paraduma to another famous cow. What's the famous cow that we hear of before? What? The Egel Zahav. The Egel Zahav. The golden calf, okay? The golden calf, which in some sense symbolizes our deepest point of rupture between us and God, distance and separation between us and God. And the para aduma, which is a kind of ritual that, just think about what it means, that it brings purity to somebody who's come into contact with death. It's able to bring somebody back from facing that abyss and reconnect them with God. So there's this cow and there's that cow. Right? There's the cow of rupture and there's the cow of somehow repair. Look what Chazal says. Tavo imo v'tikanech. Mosh katav Rashi. So Chazal says that the image, the symbol of the red heifer, right? The egel was a child. It's a cat. The red heifer was a mature, an adult cat. Chazal says, the red heifer, it's the mother who comes to wipe up the child's.
Not just to connect.
To wipe. The way a mother wipes its child, The red heifer is there to clean up the mess of the egel. The red heifer is there like a mother who cleans its child.
Purify.
In a sense, to purify. In a sense, the red heifer is somehow carrying that power to pick up those pieces that just fall to bits. What happened to the egel? Not only is that separation from God, but the Torah itself is shattered. It's a total loss of connection. And it's saying the mother can come and reconnect the fallen pieces. And he goes on. It's tzarich lahavin. V'ki hapara ima shel ha'egel halazat. What? The red heifer, 40 years later in the desert, that was a ritual for the Mishkan. It's the mother of a golden calf. What are you talking about? Is it its mother? And anyway, there were lots of para adumah. There wasn't like one para adumah. You can't say that the para adumah was the mother of the egel hazahav. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, you can't take it at face value. But according to what we said earlier, what we hinted at earlier was that why is Miriam's death connected to the red heifer? Because it's channeling that energy, what he called the feminine energy of rachamim, of womb-like compassion. Miriam acted like a mother. Miriam was a mother to the people who weren't even her child. What she's saying now, he's saying the para adumah wasn't its literal mother, but the para is that ability to envelop somebody the way a mother will envelop a baby child and clean up. Right? The kind of rachamim the Rebbe is saying we need to have for one another is to be that kind of compassionate presence for each other that's willing to just hold the messiest situation that person in. Which is the same thing he said about his wife. She was like the mother to all of them. And Miriam, so it means that Miriam too, Miriam's death is brought right after the para adumah, because she had that same power of the para adumah, that same power to be a mother figure for all the people who needed that. And that even after her death, and here it's clear that he's speaking of his wife as well, she's standing in heaven like an Rachmaniyah, like a compassionate mother, and awakening God's compassion for all Israel, even for the ones who aren't. Just like as I was saying, the red heifer was there to clean up the mess of the egel, even though they're not really, a mother. Is that where yours ended? You have another psukim, right? Okay.
There's one more paragraph.
Yeah, just another paragraph. Yeah, I just want to say there's another. What are you guys? What are you making of this? Are you with this? Are you not with it? Are you understanding it? Does it feel like?
On one hand, I feel like I'm really some.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, those come out with me, actually. Because
yeah.
The mother could have given some shame and somebody else and some God do that. That's that I'm not put away. אני מנסה להיות במקום שזה בגלל שאני מאוד מופתעת בסוף מהרביות.
So as far as like labels and essentialist kind of viewpoints, structures and stuff, it's a little hard to just take them.
Yeah. And also the concept of the beat, like that also like dances with. So like trying to totally do that, and then I have all these that shape that are taking places.
Yeah. I'll say also that personally, the kind of taking an essentialist viewpoint, saying women are this, men are this, you have to be like this, this is what it is. It's not something that's my perspective. I think that the Rebbe is kind of doing somewhat of both, of using these symbols to, but also using them in a way that's way beyond repetitive. He's saying like we all need to be each other's caregivers, and we all need to be Rahmani and It's what I see him doing is drawing from what he saw in his life. And this is the model that we need to adopt right now. Because God's not helping us if we don't do it. And so yeah, it's wrapped in a lot of symbolism to sort of take it out. Power in it, to me, like if I just kind of distill it like beyond the labels and the categories, is that there's like I think a radical paradigm shift that he's presented here. Is that when you can't look to heaven to save you, it's not going to be enough for you to sit there in your little corner and hope that God saves you. You have to learn how to be with God. You have to learn how to care about somebody. That's where God's still. On that level, that to me is like kind of the undercurrent of this entire piece, is that he's speaking to people who are cut off from anything above them and beyond them. And you can't experience this kind of the old religion doesn't work right now. You have to learn not, and it's not an excuse. This is part of what's so kind of mind-blowing to me about the Torah. It's like not making excuses for that. He's also not making excuses to say like or apologetics, like God, he is understanding God's absence from above as is that God's presence is moving to become something. But it's a transition that he's witnessing and calling for and believing in, calling other people to attach to. And even this thing with the tzaddikim when they run. Piece that we saw 2 weeks ago, where he gave it on his father's, he was basically saying that his interpretation of what it means that the tzaddikim are the ones who can pray for us and is not because they were these holy souls that are like that. It's because they lived human lives in this world. That somehow the compassion and ability to have empathy towards another person comes from people in a way that's stronger than other people. You can't say that if you're not experiencing it. This is what he's doing with this. And that salvation is going to exist between us. And it's going to exist between us and the other human beings who know what it's like to be. This is the place where all of God and heaven and everything that was before the model is changing. And that the lowest point in earth is now going to be created God, the remnant of God. Which is, think back to what we learned months ago, like in the Rosh Hashanah, we learned it that understands what Chassidut is. Right? Chassidut is about bringing the awareness of godliness into the most physical human experiences and worldly reality. And he's continuing to do that in these situations. It's a complicated piece. I'm not going to read it. It's a complicated piece. When I looked at the printing of the original manuscript, the Rebbe actually wrote, scratched out and edited and changed this piece like a lot, which says to me it was complicated for him to convey as well. We have manuscripts of the whole thing.
Oh.
The whole thing is like broken, like more so than a lot of other pieces. There's a lot of like scratched out pieces and rewrites and things like that. There was a lot the Rebbe was trying to convey here. That was not too simple to convey.
It's also like a radical thing to say at the time. Your own survival.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal.
And part of just the another piece that he's conveying here is your fear for your survival can itself become your compassion. This is part of the remarkable piece. Because we're all facing this same situation, so you're not so hard to care, to understand what somebody else is going through. I think he's not telling the Hasidim, like, forgive yourself. You can't say it to somebody. He says all along, he's like, can you really tell somebody to not feel their own pain? It's impossible. But what you can do with that is to expand your feeling and experience of your own life to incorporate other people's situations. And through that embrace, saying that's how God's going to be with us. What's going to happen? I'm not going to tell you about that. I don't know what's going to happen. But this is a way that we can create a presence of God, even in the place where it's needed. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. And this is his order for his Shaka friend.
אני רוצה לשמוע אותך, חוץ מלהתנהג.